This is Hammond.
And Jessica.
And you're listening to the Friendly Atheist Podcast. Please go to patreon.com/Friendly Atheist Podcast to support the show. And Happy New Year to all of you. We have some exciting news to begin the year with, which is that we are now being hosted at Glassbox Media, which is just a different podcasting company. We're excited to be working with them. And in terms of listening to the show, nothing should change for anybody on your end. If you subscribe to this on some podcasting platform, the feed should work just fine. The only change is that there may be different types of ads placed on the show, maybe more mid-show ads too. Keep in mind that if you want ad-free shows, you can always get them at patreon.com/Friendly Atheist Podcast. No better time to do that.
Honestly, we owe it to you all for us being able to kind of take a little step in terms of making this part of our job instead of a fun hobby that we get to do. We couldn't do this without you.
It gets to be both now. It's really exciting.
Yeah, I cannot stress enough that this is pretty life-changing for me, actually. So,
well, very exciting.
So and
deal. Congrats to us.
Congrats
Yay.
to us. We're
Thanks
proud
to all of you.
and took a long time, but
yay.
We've only been podcasting for 9 years. So
so I figured we would start by just pissing everyone off then, because what better way?
We're not going to talk about Kevin McCarthy right now?
No, it's too easy, and it'll keep going for the next 3 months, so there's no story yet.
I'm going to demand a McCarthy corner at some point this episode.
At some point. Let's start with, did you watch the Monday Night Football game this week?
I mean, I definitely followed the many news alerts I got regarding it. One of the safety.
Yeah, he's a safety for the Buffalo Bills.
Tell me his name.
Damar Hamlin.
He collapsed on field, and this is what I saw. He collapsed on the field, had to undergo CPR for something like 10 minutes.
On the field.
On the field, which is horrifying.
Made a tackle that didn't look weird, I will say.
Is that...
He made a tackle on someone else. It wasn't that strange.
And then he just didn't get up?
And he got up for like a second and then collapsed, which, again, all of that is bad.
Sure.
But all of that is not weird in the context of a football game.
Right.
What was weird is that when he collapsed on the field, he stayed down.
Yeah.
And very quickly, everyone seemed to realize, this is very
It's an
bad.
emergency.
So you're right. They
and
performed
so
CPR for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, they brought him to the hospital, and my understanding is that the NFL was ready to move forward with the game.
Yeah.
And the coaches were like, excuse me, did you just say you're giving our team 5 minutes to warm up after we just watched our friend and colleague have CPR performed on him and we don't know if he's alive or dead? No, I'm going to go ahead and gracefully bow out of trying to rip the heads off my fellow man in light of this tragedy.
The NFL says they did not say they had a 5-minute warning, but everyone, including the broadcasters, including the teams, are like, we were under the understanding we were supposed to get back to play.
Well, we didn't say it. It's not in a memo, so we can't be held responsible.
Yeah, but you're right. The coaches and the players were basically made it clear to league officials, like, we are in no place to keep playing this game. And then they canceled it. They have not rebooked it. Anyway, that's not what I want to talk about. But all of that happened.
I thought we were just
that's
talk
the
about
baseline.
how garbage NFL is.
We could be.
I do
so
love
here's the
talking
thing.
about that.
Here's the question that I think should be asked as we are waiting for Hamlin's condition to get better. It's gotten a little better.
He seems to be alert. He's holding hands with his loved ones as of this. This is 6:30 on Thursday.
Yeah, so it's getting a little better. We're still waiting on that. What I wanted to mention is, if there's one thing people should be talking about, especially the experts who cover the NFL for a living, a couple questions arise. Like, is there anything... He didn't seem to do anything wrong on that play, and the other players that he was like, the other team didn't seem to do anything wrong.
Right.
This wasn't an illegal hit. This wasn't a violation of the rules. So did the NFL do anything wrong that led to this injury?
Okay.
That's a fair question to be asking.
Question.
Is there any protective gear he should have been wearing or that he wasn't wearing?
Do we even know what exactly happened that caused this collapse? Did his heart stop, or...
I'm not even going to try to give you a medical explanation.
Okay, well, you went to a year of medical school, so what did I pay for that for?
He had a heart, and then it got hurt. That's the best I can do for you. But did the NFL, if there was a concussion, the question is, are the helmets protective enough? Is there a type of hit we should be banning from the field? That's kind of the analysis that's non-medical that I want to hear from the people for example, ESPN, because those are the sort of people who, if they're commentating on the game and they're analyzing the game, you have the loudest megaphones, right? Like, I want them to be the ones criticizing or at least raising the issue.
Okay.
Let's change it. Let's talk about those issues. So bear with me for a second. Okay. I want to explain. Here's what I saw after the game.
Where we're going here.
Yeah. So after the injury happened, and as he's being taken off the field, realize if you're a player on the Buffalo Bills, which is Hamlin's team, or you're on the Bengals, the opposing team, like there's not much you can do at that point.
Of course.
Other than, hopefully not suiting back up to get back to playing
just
the game.
watching horror with the rest of us.
The players, at least on the Bills, I believe, formed a prayer circle on the field. Fine. Doesn't bother me. One, they're adults. Two, it's a private league. It's not Bremerton. It's not a high school. It's not a coach telling them to do it. So, not my way of dealing with grief, but if that's the way they're dealing with it, doesn't bother me one bit. Fine. And by the way, some of the loved ones, some of the people who held press conferences after the game, and they were asked, how are you feeling about this? What are you doing? Which there's not much to say at that point.
Terrible.
But a lot of coaches, players also express, I'm praying to God that he gets better. Fine. That's how you're dealing with it. I am not mad about that.
Okay.
Where I got mad, especially, is when I saw the way people were commenting on this thing when they were in a position to offer better commentary. So I'll give you one example of this, and I have a clip that I want to play from the show. One of the shows on ESPN featured a football analyst named Dan Orlovsky. I don't watch his show very much. I couldn't tell you more about him. And I'll preface this by saying I think he was just doing what felt right to him in the moment. But what he did is, instead of talking about the things we just mentioned, could we have done anything? Could the NFL have done anything to prevent this? Is there blame to go anywhere here?
Sorry, this guy's a representative of whom?
He is a football analyst for ESPN.
Okay, so he's not
connected
on
to a team.
behalf of NFL, not on behalf of... Okay.
He's the sort of person who has a megaphone that could get people talking about these things.
Right.
So here's what he said. I'll talk
You're
about
not
it.
saying a man was cowardly in the face of a little bit of difficulty, are you? Because I've never seen that before in this country. There is no shortage of criticism against ESPN analysts for not going harder against the NFL because they have a mutually beneficial relationship. Of course.
This is not about that. This is not about that. Here's what he said. I'll talk about it on the other side. This is about a minute and a half long.
Football gave me everything. And I think even through the midst of absolute tragedy last night, I think you saw some of the beauty of football as well, that it's brought us all here together. This is a little bit different. I've heard it all day, thoughts and prayers. And you just heard Scherf and Jonathan Allen say, all we can do is pray for him. And I've heard the Buffalo Bills organization say that we believe in prayer. And maybe this is not the right thing to do, but it's just on my heart that I want to pray for.
It is.
Damar Hamlin right now. I'm going to do it out loud. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to bow my head, and I'm just going to pray for him. God, we come to you in these moments that we don't understand, that are hard, because we believe that you're God, and coming to you and praying to you has impact. We're sad, we're angry, and we want answers, but some things are unanswerable. We just want to pray, truly come to you and pray for strength for Damar, for healing for Damar, for comfort for Damar, to be with his family, to give them peace. If we didn't believe that prayer didn't work, we wouldn't ask this of you, God. I believe in prayer. We believe in prayer. We lift up Damar Hamlin's name in your name. Amen.
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 It's beautiful.
Respectfully.
Okay. Finish off this clip right here. Boom, there we go. Okay, so he spent about a minute and a half during their commentary show where he basically breaks out into a Christian prayer. Here's And by the way, he got plenty of praise from that online. You know where I heard about this first?
Where?
It's from Christian websites that were raving about the fact that this analyst used time on ESPN to pray in front of everybody, like to show everyone how it's done.
Okay.
And again, if he did that off the clock, I don't care. It's not my business. Here's what I didn't like about that prayer, and this is what I was mad about because this is a guy who's on ESPN Live. He has the ability to raise issues that I don't, and no one else does. Here's what I didn't like about that. One is his comment like, we believe in prayer. Who is we? Is he talking about the entire ESPN viewing audience? Because no, we're not all of your faith. And maybe the 3 people sitting at that table offering commentary shared his faith. But the idea that, hey, you know what? I'm Christian, so I'm going to go ahead and offer this prayer for Hamlin. Like, imagine if that was any religion but Christianity, how that would have gone over. It wouldn't. It never would have. People would have been pissed off. The idea that everyone just, we're all cool with this, right? I'm just going to stop everything we're doing and break out into a Christian song and dance routine.
Do you think that if like a Jewish person gave a prayer, do you think that it
was
would
explicitly Jewish the way this guy's was explicitly Christian?
That's what I'm wondering.
It would not have gone over well at all.
You don't think?
Name a time it's ever happened.
I mean, it hasn't. It hasn't, and it doesn't.
Because
and
no
it
one
won't,
would ever
because
do
of course
that.
nobody would put up with it, but.
And imagine
this is
someone
going to be
who's
one of those things that you're real mad about, and
I'm so mad about it. I'm not done yet.
Mad about
Orlovsky
it.
is white. Fine. Imagine if a brown person who wasn't Christian did what he just tried to do.
White privilege is not new territory for us to tread upon.
So that's one thing. He assumes I'm Christian. I've seen other people doing this, so I'm going to do it too, using my time on ESPN. That it's using the platform that bothered me. If he did it on the car on the way there, wouldn't care. Here's the other thing he said, and this is the one that I don't think, tell me if you picked up on this.
Okay.
Because I think most people
pretty
who
fucking
commented
focused.
on
You
this
saw.
Did not hear any of this. We're sad, we're angry, we want answers, but some things are unanswerable.
You know what's
That
funny is I
thing,
heard
that line.
we're sad and angry and we want answers and immediately spun up in my head of like, well, that's a really nice sentiment.
Yeah.
And missed that last
Some things
tag.
are unanswerable. No, this is a medical injury on an NFL field. It is very much answerable with enough evidence. And he is one of the people who could be demanding that the NFL do a better job of taking care of players' health. I just found this out. I did not know this. After you retire from the NFL, I guess, covers your insurance for 5 years and then it's cut off. Like,
I'm genuinely shocked that they offer anything to XFL.
I believe that only happened after people complained and said you don't do anything for all the concussions and the brain trauma and all that stuff.
Listen, who do you think is worse to its veterans, the U.S. Army or the NFL? And that's kind of a joke, but as soon as I said it...
They have VA hospitals. They don't have anything
How are
for
those doing,
NFL,
though?
Right? But the thing is, like, your job is to point out how the safety of players very much depends on the league's decisions.
Can I
this
just
guy
give you...
was like, I'm going to pray. By the way, some things are unanswerable. I guess we will never know what happened to this player, is the insinuation he's making. It's in God's hands.
Can I give, like, the tiniest bit of pushback on, like, your specific brand of anger in this? I think I would be feeling very different about this if it was a bad tackle that hurt him, if it was helmet-to-helmet contact, like something that we saw happen in front of us and understand that it could have been prevented. You know what I mean?
If it was obvious that it could have been prevented.
And obviously, while he's on the way to the hospital, nobody knows exactly what happened. But it seems to me that, like, he's 23, 24. He was a young guy.
24, I believe.
24. Yeah. It seems to me from what I could gather, listen, when I was in junior high, a friend of mine dropped dead in my school playing badminton. He just had heart problems, and they caught up with him during fucking badminton in junior high, and he fucking died in front of us. Things like this do happen. And I'm just not sure. And listen, I am never going to defend the NFL, but I'm not sure that he should have. His first instinct would have been, well, the NFL fucked up, or the NFL could have prevented this.
Not calling for that. Not asking for him to do that because he's saying I'll give you an alternative here. Scott Van Pelt, the host of SportsCenter, and another football analyst, Ryan Clark, were immediately on ESPN after the game, and so they cut in early because they were already ready to do the post-game stuff. They had to deal with the immediate aftermath of the incident, and later on, and when I read what like sports media people wrote about the coverage of this incident, they overwhelmingly praised what Scott Van Pelt and Ryan Clark did. And the New York, CNN spoke with Scott Van Pelt later. And they're like, so, like, what was going through your mind as you're dealing with the coverage of this?
This is the guy who did the prayer?
No.
Oh,
different
Scott
guys.
Van Pelt?
Scott Van Pelt is the host of SportsCenter.
Oh, okay.
Normally, here's what he told CNN. This is supposed to be a fun show. We're the diversion. There's a lot of serious bullshit in the world, but we're here for the fun. That's what we do. But we are also capable of covering something serious. And Van Pelt said that before going on the air for their top-rated SportsCenter show, he made the decision to focus strictly on the known facts. I kept leaning into what we know, he said. We'll deal in what we know, not in what we wish we knew or hope to find out. And the truth is, we knew very little, which meant in practice, they did not have medical personnel come on the show to say, here's what might have happened to the guy. They were
Which
just
probably would have
dealing...
been irresponsible because
we don't know at the time. That is a very different take than what this other ESPN guy, Orlovsky, did, where he's like, you know what? Some things are unanswerable. You just got to give it up to God. Like, no, you
things
can.
are unanswerable.
No, he doesn't know the answer. That's different. He is assuming, like, we'll never know. And who am I? A guy on ESPN who has the NFL's ear who could say, I hope the NFL is spending considerable amounts of time or money or research to make sure that what happened to this player never happens to any other player if there is something in their power that they could have done. He could have said that.
No,
he didn't say
why would
any
he
of
have?
that.
Because there was absolutely no way that anybody could know that it was the... Listen,
I'm
you
not
know,
blaming the NFL. I'm not blaming the NFL.
No, listen,
I'm saying
I haven't
he
watched
doesn't know
football
this.
in fucking 10 years because I think it's genuinely morally not okay because it's so dangerous for people. However, if somebody collapses on a field, not after a bad hit or something, or like something that a pad could have prevented or a rule could have prevented. This guy's heart just gave out from what we can tell. And I just don't see anybody who in that moment of us all trying to deal with this collective trauma, watching a man be resuscitated on the field and then be like, oh, well, we're going to go down hard on the NFL. That's just not how human beings work. You're not a human being. You forget that the rest of us have emotions.
I am not asking him to go after the NFL. He has said some things are unanswerable. This may not be one of them. Why is he assuming that?
He isn't.
And he's cloaking it. If he said, here's what Franklin Graham said.
Though?
Hang on. You're not hearing what I'm saying.
I am. I think you're wrong and stupid.
That's fine. This is what Franklin Graham said, and of course, he's the evangelist. Here's what his post was. The Buffalo Bills know who to call out to for help.
Well, Franklin Graham is always going to be an idiot.
I know. Tell me why this is different from Orlovsky. The entire team dropped to their knees in a circle of prayer after Damar Hamlin was taken away via ambulance. They knew that Damar needed help that only God can give. Today, millions of people continue to pray for this young man, and I am one of them. No credit to the medical personnel. Hang on. I'm expecting this from Franklin Graham because
you're not a 17-year-old new atheist.
Whatever.
We need to get over this shit.
Are you done yet? Hang on. So Franklin Graham's no credit to the medical personnel, no credit to the hospital team, the doctors, nurses working on him right now. He's just like, yep, they're praying because they know only God can fix this. Of course, that's a dumb thing to say.
Of course it
you
is.
expect that from Franklin Graham because he doesn't know any better. The ESPN analyst who has probably covered injuries and the NFL's inability to handle things the right way when the obvious answer is always right there. Here's a guy who could say, ask the question. What's the NFL doing about this? What are they planning to do once they get a medical autopsy is the wrong word. When they get the report about what happened from the experts in the hospital, what is the NFL going to do to try and prevent this? If there is something in their power, are they going to see to it? Are they going to postpone this game indefinitely? Are they going to make sure that the trauma that happened here? I mean, there are so many things you could be doing to pressure the NFL into doing the right thing. What did this guy do? He basically said, hang on. Here's what he said. We don't know what happened. Some things are unanswerable. If prayer didn't work, we wouldn't be doing this. We all believe in prayer. That's what he's doing. And because he's cloaking it in prayer, it all sounds very good to a lot of listeners. But again, I don't need an ESPN analyst to shove his faith in me. And I think that would be obvious if this was anything but Christianity and a guy who, not his fault or anything, but if the guy wasn't a white guy who happened to be Christian and he was a brown guy who happened to be any other religion,
well,
people
first of all,
would
he
have
would not be on ESPN.
No,
they only hire
have
white
plenty.
dudes.
They have
No,
plenty
I know.
of Jewish people. They have plenty of Indian people on the staff too. Not enough, but they do. And I watch them all the time. But if one of their other anchors did what this guy did, it would not receive the praise it got.
Yeah.
That's the thing that bugged me. By the way, on Fox Sports 1, totally different place, there was another co-host named Nick Wright who offered around the same time, also part of a panel discussion on this. I'm not playing his clip, but here's what he said. He praised the medical workers for their quick reaction. He highlighted how people who were desperate to channel their grief into something positive donated to a Toys for Kids fundraiser that Hamlin had started on GoFundMe. He was hoping to raise $2,500 before the injury. He had not met that goal.
Well,
it's now at $8 million and counting because people wanted to give. They wanted to help in some way. He highlighted that. He brought up, by the way, Nick Wright on Fox Sports 1, he brought up that people close to him were religious, even though he's not. And he appreciated the fact that they had their faith to help keep them grounded during a tragedy. And he didn't begrudge them that. He didn't use that platform to say, here's why they're wrong. That's what I'm for. But he didn't do that. I thought that was a perfectly normal, fine way of saying, let's give credit where it's due. Here's what any one of us can do if we want to help in some way, because we don't have the power to do anything else.
Right.
Chip into the fundraiser.
Right.
And by the way, I respect and understand that people are using their faith to deal with this really scary thing, and that's fine. I don't personally have that, is what he's saying. But he also didn't sit around and say, no, let's trash the people who are saying this about God. He didn't. I thought that was a much more sensible take, and that's not what the ESPN guy did.
I agree that Fox Sports 1 guy, is that it?
Nick
Sports
Wright.
1?
Yes.
Did a better job. But also he is a person who philosophically is more aligned with us.
Oh, I thought he was way more conservative than I was. With the, I'm not religious, but everyone else is, and I'm kind of jealous of that. No, that's not my take. But I'll take it. Me and him do not see eye to eye.
No, this is just one of those things that I am never going to get my hackles up about. You, the fact that you got mad about this is blowing my mind.
So mad.
Genuinely, this is the thing we have. This conversation we have all the time of the shit that pisses you off is so confusing to me. It's always
I'm mad because I like football. I like
why
watching
do you like football? It's
because I have nothing else
dubious.
in my life that I like.
I keep asking if I can come over and be with friends.
No.
Okay, wait. I'm not, no, you wrote the time down. I'm not done talking about this thing. I just am not sure that you and I, personally, should be in the business of, shitting all over people who are coping with tragedy and trauma.
I'm not shitting on the Buffalo Bills parade down the field. Didn't bother me one bit, and I'm not mad about it.
I'm talking about our ESPN gentlemen.
Yes.
Listen, these are real human beings who are going through real trauma.
Who's paid money to offer NFL expertise, not be a preacher on TV?
It's not he every time somebody makes a touchdown pass, he's oh, God had his hand on that one. He is a man dealing with trauma in the way that he has been taught to. It doesn't matter. That's not what we're talking about. It absolutely is not what we're talking about. That's a false equivalence.
If he just said,
I'm into the most specious arguments when you think you're right. It's embarrassing, Hammond.
I think your argument would apply if he said something I'm praying that this guy gets better. If he left it at that, I would be I'll roll my eyes, but I'm not going to get mad about it.
That's how people that.
I'm not mad about that.
Appropriate. No.
Using a minute and a half on TV to do your little prayer routine for everybody? No.
This is, Hammond. These can't be the fights we pick.
Okay, I'll give you a better fight.
Fine.
Actually, no. I'll get to a better fight in a second. This is an interesting story out of Pennsylvania. Here's your McCarthy moment if you want.
Listen, I only want to talk about McCarthy the last 2 days.
You have 30 seconds.
Okay, the last 2 days I have been at work at the barn and we've been basically reorganizing our whole office, which is insane. So it's 5 people in a tiny office. And every time for the last 48 hours, a new vote came in that he lost. I would cackle, like throw my head back and cackle and then yell the number. And then today, I just want to tell you, I literally interrupted a vet appointment with my cackling. I was holding a horse who was getting her leg scanned, not scanned, like what's the thing where you like look at like an ultrasound, but for your leg. And literally, we were like in the middle of it, and I'm holding the horse, and I glanced down at my phone because I got an ESPN alert, a CNN alert.
Yes.
And I cackled because that was 8. And then later in the office, I was laughing so hard that I could only sign the number 9. And thankfully, the women who work with me know sign language because I couldn't breathe. I was so laughy. Laughy? Happy is what I meant to say. Okay, let's go.
Okay, so in Pennsylvania...
We've earned this, is what I'm saying. We've earned this shot for years.
Glassbox, we appreciate you taking the risk. It was nice knowing you. Okay, let's talk about Pennsylvania because they have a weird situation with their House as well because all the attention for people who care about politics at all. What you probably remember from election night is John Fetterman won their Senate race.
Droz lost.
And maybe that Doug Mastriano, who ran for governor and was a Christian nationalist, lost the governor's race.
Maybe.
He did to Josh Shapiro. Very exciting, very big elections. But what probably went under a lot of people's radar is that their state house, after years of being under Republican control, House and Senate in the state of Pennsylvania, the House flipped to Democrats.
In Pennsylvania?
In Pennsylvania.
Well, that's a good sign.
They had a 102 to 101 majority in the House.
All right.
Razor thin margins. But wow, they managed to flip the state house. That gives them the ability to do some stuff. But here's where it gets weird. 2 of those people who were in the state house, they were state representatives, had also run for Congress and won. And so very exciting, but that means they're going to Washington, D.C. They're not sworn in yet because of McCarthy, but they are over there, which means there are 2 vacancies. In addition to that, there was one Democrat who was on the ballot. He died in October. I think he was old. I don't remember the circumstances, but he died in October. It was too late to get his name off the ballot, and then he won the race. All 3 of those are safe Democratic seats, but what needs to happen is there needs to be a special election. Yeah. Odds are Democrats are going to win all 3 seats. Those are pretty blue districts.
Sure.
Okay, so as it stands, it is not a 102 to 101 majority in the House. It is a 101 Republican to 99 Democrats. Mm-hmm. And so here's the thing. If you're the Republicans and you're like, we need to elect a Speaker of the House, do you say, you know what, let's wait to do that until... like we can get the special elections done in February. No, what did the Republicans do? They said, we're going to push back, we're going to sue to file the special election in May. They want to push back the special elections as long as possible. I think May is their deadline, the last time they could do it. And they're asking the courts to let them do it in May because they're the majority right now in the House. And the Democrats are like, dude, we won. We won the elections. We have the majority. We just have these 3 vacancies for other reasons.
Right.
Okay,
so
there's
we should
the
hold
dilemma.
Those votes.
So I hope I don't screw up all the specifics there, but this is their dilemma. They need to vote on a Speaker of the House. And the thing is, the Republicans couldn't coalesce around one name.
Wait.
Very McCarthy-esque.
That sounds familiar.
Very familiar. So at some point here, over the course of trying to figure this out, one of the Republicans, one of the quote-unquote moderate Republicans in the Pennsylvania House speaks with some Democrats, and he's like, you know what? If you guys, like, the Democrats were nominating, like, the head of their caucus, who is a black woman, really good politician. They were eager to nominate her to be their speaker. Mm-hmm. But she didn't have the votes because they don't have those because of those vacancies. The Republicans wanted to nominate whoever they wanted to nominate. Democrats weren't going to go along with it, but there was dissension. So one of these Republicans goes to the Democrats and says, you know, if you nominated this other guy over here who happens to be a Democrat, I think you could get a handful of Republicans on your side.
So he's saying bail out on the black woman who y'all are really into.
Who's the head of your caucus and happens to be pretty progressive.
Okay.
And go with the slightly less
more
progressive.
Moderate?
A slightly more moderate guy.
White guy?
Oh, who
weird.
happens
That's
to be
so strange.
who he's worked with on some bills before, but he is a Democrat. And he's like, I think if you nominate that guy, you would get the votes you need right now.
I think that would also reveal some very interesting things about
well, guess what?
Republican Democrats.
All the Democrats, every one of them was like, you know what? We'll take you up on that.
And?
So they nominated one of their fellow Democrats. His name is Mark Rozzi. And Mark Rozzi won that election for Speaker of the House 115 to 85 over the Republican second
He should go down and run
candidate.
for Speaker of the House.
I know, right? So here's the interesting thing. Who is Mark Rozzi? Because he's been in the state house of Pennsylvania for 10 years. Since like 2012, he was first voted in. He just became the Speaker of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. Now, what did he compromise to get those Republicans on board? He said, I will drop my Democratic label and I will change my party label to independent. But by and large, he still holds all the same values.
That doesn't change his views. It just changes his...
Yeah, so that's one thing.
Paperwork.
He also said in like his acceptance speech this week that he promises he will be an independent Speaker of the House. He won't caucus with either side. He'll try to play it down the line, which is fine, like whatever.
Just like the Supreme Court does?
Yeah. But he said, I pledge my loyalty to the people of the Commonwealth, which whatever. But then he added, sometimes Republicans will win, sometimes Democrats will win, and that is fine so long as the beneficiaries are the people of this Commonwealth.
Okay.
Okay.
Why are we talking about
Sounds
this?
fine. He doesn't seem to be like a Kirsten Sinema independent who just exists to crap all over Democrats. He seems like a Democrat who's using a different party label. But he's also a guy that at least some Republicans are like, yeah, he'll give us a fair shake if we have ideas.
Sounds like they respect him as a man of integrity.
Yes.
And that's important.
And here's the thing. So
Which we
what
do
is
not
it?
see in the GOP.
And no one seems to disagree about that. Like, if you don't like him, it's because he's a Democrat or he used to be and whatever. But here's the thing. This is what was surprising to me about it. Why did that Republican recommend this guy? What is it that he's fought for? What are his principles other than being a Democrat? You know, what are his principles? Well, the thing he's best known for, thing he made his name for, is fighting. No, it's good. He's made a name for himself fighting on behalf of victims of child sexual abuse.
Wow.
He said he himself was a victim of a Catholic priest back when he was 13. And one of the pledges, one of the things he's been working for several years is to get a law passed that would do what some other states have done, open up a retroactive 2-year window so that past victims of sexual abuse who were time limited out because of statute of limitations, so they couldn't sue, but now they realize what happened to them.
Right.
He wants to open a 2-year window so that they could file those lawsuits against their assailants.
Didn't they already do something like that specifically for Catholic Church victims?
In some states they have. I believe in Pennsylvania they have not done that.
Oh, I thought
entirely.
they did that huge investigation.
They did Josh Shapiro, the new governor, is the former attorney general who spearheaded that investigation.
Cool.
But the question of, well, what do you do after that? Now that the investigation is out, the question is, well, now we know there were all these priests. Now that people are better aware of sexual abuse, what can we do about it? And Mark Rozzi was one of the guys saying, let's do this. Let's open up this window so that victims can sue their assailants. The Catholic Church and like its allies who fought against that law were very much like, you just want to get that passed because you want to make money. You want to sue whoever did this to you, and you want to make money off of this, which first of all means he's telling the truth.
That's what we call projection.
Like, he would only get money if the Catholic priest did everything he said they did. But also he said to everyone, like, if that law passes, I am not interested in filing a lawsuit myself, but I am doing this for other people in that position.
So either whoever molested him is dead, or he's just not interested.
Or he's just not interested.
I just love every time a Republican accuses anybody of doing anything. It's so reflective of their own values of like, you're only doing this because you want money. And this dude, from what I can tell,
just principle.
No, genuinely, I care about human beings. Go fuck yourself. Like, it's so telling, isn't it? And and they do it over and over and over again.
There was a law passed that was. It didn't get anywhere. He got a law passed. He got that bill passed in the House.
Great.
Even with the Republican House. He got it passed in 2021. The Republican-led state Senate said no to it. However, both chambers agreed to put it in front of voters for a constitutional amendment in 2021. Which is fine. Put it to the voters. Like, that's all well and good.
How does that
However,
happen?
A procedural mistake made by people who weren't trying to do this on purpose they couldn't get it on the ballot in 2021. So anyway, I only say this, I haven't even investigated the specifics of that law. They want to put this in front of voters, but Mark Rozzi is the guy who's been fighting for this to happen. That's why the Republicans are like, we respect this guy. He's doing this out of principle. And you know what? If you want to make him the Speaker of the House, you'll get a bunch of our votes. And they agreed to it, and they did.
Because I'm sure the black woman is definitely largely not interesting or compelling or dignified.
I didn't look into their complaints about her specifically.
Sure. Well, we respect this guy, so we'll vote for him. That woman?
Other thing that's interesting, the Free Thought Equality Fund Political Action Committee, one of the secular groups that offers endorsements, like affiliated with the American Humanist Association, but has the ability to make endorsements, they actually endorsed this guy like in this year for the last election. And they said why did they endorse him? They said in their blurb, his other policy priorities include protecting women's reproductive rights, improving and investing more funds into pre-K, K-12, and higher education, increasing the minimum wage, safer communities, youth homelessness. So on a host of progressive issues, he's all there. And by the way, they pointed out
11. He lost 11. He lost 11.
McCarthy
He lost
lost
11.
again.
He lost
Surprise.
11.
And they also noted that Mark Rozzi here is a freethinker. That was Rozzi's term to describe his religious affiliation, which I don't know how he uses that word. Everyone has different reasons for using the religious label they use, especially when you're non-religious.
Right.
The word he uses is freethinker, but I think that is his way of saying...
That is code word for atheism.
It could be a code word for atheism. As far as I can tell, he is openly non-religious. He just doesn't talk about it.
Yeah.
And that means if I have this right and I try to cover this stuff as closely as I can, I think Mark Rozzi is now the most powerful, openly non-religious politician in the country.
Wait, isn't Kristen Sinema non-religious?
She is unaffiliated, takes no position on it.
Wait,
and
her
also,
religion in addition to her
everything
morals
else,
and
yes.
values?
Correct. I would say Jared Huffman, he's the humanist in Congress. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But actually, Jared Huffman is now one member of a minority party in the U.S. House. The Speaker of the Pennsylvania House probably has more legislative power.
Oh, so you're talking in like power rankings, not religiosity rankings.
Oh, yeah. So anyway,
I thought you were going to be like, he said something about I'm praying for you, so fuck him.
I am amazed that a guy who is openly non-theistic, whatever word he uses, none of that seemed to affect the vote for him to be speaker. No one, like, if you have criticism of this guy, maybe it's his policy positions, but even the handful of Republicans who voted for him are like, no, we like the guy. We think he's principled. Interesting.
Do you think that could happen at the national level?
That's a good question. Will there be like a consensus candidate that a handful of moderate Republicans, whoever's left...
what the fuck else are they going to do?
Right.
My friend Ann, friend of the show, Ann just texted and said if they get to 13, people in 100 years are going to call it a McCarthy dozen and never know why. And it really made me laugh a lot. So I just wanted to give her credit for that. That text that almost made me bust out laughing in the middle of this recording. It's just so fucking fun to watch.
Oh, absolutely.
Twitter is fun again. It feels like the season finale of White Lotus. And the Academy Awards are happening at the same time.
Oh, it's great. We just need a slap and we're good.
It's just outstanding, and I'm glad we're all enjoying it.
You're going to enjoy this one, too. Okay. This happened closely after Christmas or around Christmas, but I had to hold it back last week because we didn't talk about the news last week. Because
I was driving last week.
But this is too good to pass up. Dennis Prager, the conservative commentator, wrote an essay. Prager
Is that him?
We'll talk about that in a second. That is him. Dennis Prager wrote an essay on one of his weird little websites. And it got a ton of reactions on social media because... here's what he said. He's... I'll read this with my best acting voice. Probably an unprecedented number of Americans with grown children will be alone this Christmas because their children will neither visit them nor invite them for the holiday dinner. Parent after parent calls my radio show, often close to tears, sometimes actually sobbing, pouring their heart out to me about being alone on the holidays despite having children and grandchildren. I'll stop there.
Okay, first of all, I have so many thoughts on this, but is this how you got low-key famous on TikTok?
Oh, yeah, just my acting skills? Yes.
No. Apparently, somebody posted on the Facebook group that a dude on TikTok picked that up and was like, I only watched half of it, but it's like some dude doing that classic like TikTok. Like,
oh, no way.
Yeah.
I'm sure it happened because this was so comically stupid to write that people on TikTok who know how to do these things would have had a field day with it.
Well, and it was a point of ridicule by everybody. It's true. And I think you said, and I only know that because I want to be clear, I don't read your shit, but I saw this TikTok video.
Yes.
But I think you said something about like if they want people to love them, maybe they should be loving, or want people to be kind to them, they should be kind.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
I mean,
both
again,
of those are exactly it. Good.
Here's the thing. We know why the conservative... First of all, I don't trust this guy to tell me the truth about Parent After Parent calling his radio show sobbing.
No, these people lie just all the time.
Let's say he's right about that. Why would conservative grandparents be alone on Christmas?
Because they're homophobic and all their kids are queer. Because every kid, because straight people are done.
Yeah, I mean, if you are either LGBTQ or you care about civil rights or reproductive rights or you're affected by those issues,
which almost everybody is,
right?
Turns out,
then you know damn well conservatives, by and large, oppose all of that. The people who vote for them oppose all of that, or they don't care about it, or they are willing to accept all of those things in exchange for like tax cuts because they're rich or something like that.
100%. Yes, you're correct.
Similarly, if you care about health, then you don't want the unvaccinated or vaccine deniers and conspiracy theorists putting your life at risk or other kids' or your kids' lives at risk. Yep. And that's before we talk about book banning, election denial, whitewashing history, science rejection, also, more guns, more hands, more places.
Honestly, though, can I just like backtrack a little bit and like, hey, do you think these guys like read or have anything cool to offer the conversation? Maybe you're just a boring guest. Did you ever think of that?
That too.
You're not an asshole. You're just boring.
If you're the sort of conservative who seriously listens to Dennis Prager and not does it as a job
keep your
or sarcastically,
shut about this.
Like these are not opinions that you're going to hash out over dinner or that you want to ruin like your dinner by having this opinion shoved in your face. These are harmful beliefs that hurt people that you love that might be sitting at that very table. And so if you have
they
the
have
choice,
to decide.
Yeah, if you have a choice to say no to those conservative relatives, why wouldn't you take them up on that? Like, not everyone gets that choice for a bunch of reasons, but like if you do, if you get to decide who's showing up at your house over Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever, and you're like, you know what, crazy MAGA aunt, whatever, we're going to just not invite her over. I get it.
Yeah. Here's why I am always so constantly proud of the Zennials or Gen Z. I don't know what they're actually supposed to be called. Zennials? Or is that me being an old person?
Yes, probably.
That's fine. Is that the boomers and the older people who are saying, like, my kids won't invite me to dinner, how come? Are because those people, and I can speak for this in my own family, did not like their own parents, but felt for their entire lives obligated to spend time with them because that's what you do. That's a grandparent's right or whatever. And that's not healthy for children. Like, maybe you shouldn't spend time with people who you actively don't like or don't value you as a human being. So I guess all I'm saying is, like, this, okay. Sorry, this is going to be a small tangent, but we're going to do it anyway. Okay, there's a lot of rhetoric that goes around on the internet about single women of a certain age of, oh, you're going to be mad that you're so happy being single now, but you're going to be old with your cats and you're not going to have any kids to take care
of you.
That's
why you should start having them,
which is why you need to
when
have,
you get married.
Truly. And it's so telling that people have kids specifically because they're afraid of being alone when they're old, and think that the solution to that is to create progeny who would be obligated to hang out with you no matter how good your self is. And then they do, and so like that's what they grew up doing. Or like, you know, I hated my parents, but we all went to fucking hang out with them. You might hate me, but that doesn't matter. That's how we do. And people who don't like their parents are like, I don't want to be near you. You're mean to me. You are like vicious. You're not kind. You make me feel like shit. You make my kid feel like shit. You make us go to church with you. You don't respect our X, Y, and Z.
So when you get a chance to break free of all that, you take
Do it.
So what did Prager say? I mean, I thought he would at least address some of
blacked out.
those
How long
things.
was I talking?
3 hours.
Okay.
I thought he would at least address some of those concerns or complaints or whatever. Nope. Here's what he said.
Oh, what did he say?
Here's what he said. The further left you go, the less likely you are to believe that you are accountable to an absolute moral code. On the other hand, he's talking about morality.
Of course,
you
I know.
not inviting your MAGA aunt means you're immoral.
What is that when people say absolute morality or whatever?
Morals only come from God. God said these are the rules, and you, heathen, don't follow any of that
So
shit.
is morality respecting your elders? Is that what
Yes.
he's tying it in
Here's
with?
what he said.
Okay.
On the other hand, conservatives, certainly religious conservatives, who are people who believe in a God-given 10 Commandments, believe that they are obligated to honor their parents, irrespective of such things as political differences. Religious people who believe they have to answer to God for their behavior are likely to treat their parents better than those who do not believe so.
Yes, everybody, live a life as such that your family will be obligated to spend time with you in your old age. Congratulations, Christians. You really fucking nailed it.
If the only reason you want to honor thy parents is because the old list told you so, it means you wouldn't have done it if you didn't have to.
Of course. And
And
so you understand why nobody wants to hang out with you, Betty.
I think the morality is coming from our side over here. And this
boy.
is not about political differences or like liberals or snowflakes. Families are not breaking up because people have different ideas about taxes. This is about like values and decency and the fact that one group of people here revels in hurting the other side.
It wouldn't have been Christmas Eve if my dad and my Uncle Mark didn't have a political argument. My dad, the Republican, my Uncle Mark, a Democrat, but like the richest person I've ever met. So who knows, kind of. But it was always about, sorry, I just hit your computer. I'm gesturing a lot. It was always about, like you said, minimum wage and money and shit like that. Not like, this person is wearing a dress, and so I think they should be murdered.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a different life.
And what else did Prager blame for all of this happening?
Gotta be gay.
It's college. He blamed college.
Actually, here's the thing. When
Because
people
they
say that,
always blame college for everything.
but they're not wrong is the thing.
And
the thing is they're right. They're just
He just doesn't
wrong about whether it's a good or bad, right?
He doesn't get that when you have more in-depth education, formal education, I should say, and exposure to a wider variety of people and the ability to explore new ideas away from like societal, cultural, religious barriers, that might lead you down a slightly more liberal path.
I'm very curious how many conservative religious people have gone to college and come out on the other end with like their exact beliefs and everything intact. It just feels unexamined.
A guy who looks like he's 20 but always wears a suit and a bow tie, you have your match.
I hate people like that.
I know. So there you go.
I saw a thing about how fucking mad people are that Americans wear pajamas to the grocery store, and it's like, get a life. Sweats are incredibly
I
comfortable.
will say, the good news about this is that all of those people who are no longer invited to the family holiday dinners, they have a lot of free time over the holidays to rethink their life choices. So, get started. Do you want to talk about Kirk Cameron? Yeah, you do.
Wait,
Did we talk about him yet?
like
2
in
weeks
our
ago?
lives?
2 weeks ago?
I
can't remember
think
if we
we've
did.
talked about him recently.
Okay. Here's the reason I want to bring up Kirk Cameron. He wrote a children's book. It's.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about
of
that, I
course.
think.
He wanted to do a public library thing, and they wouldn't do it, and he was mad. We had a bunch of librarians write in and explain
That's
to
right.
us what the fuck that's all about.
Okay, so that's where we were at. That his publishers, like we reached out to 50 some public libraries, and they said no. And all the librarians are like, you can rent the space yourself. And they were claiming persecution. It's like no library is obligated to like promote your event for you.
Of course.
So guess
they're
what they
not
did?
a marketing arm of you personally.
Yes. So a couple weeks ago, his team went ahead and rented space from a branch of the Indianapolis Public Library. They hosted their own event. And of course, like if you go to Indianapolis and you're like, hey, Kirk Cameron's reading a book to your kids, will it get attention? Sure. Will
Yeah,
it
of
get
course.
people to show up? Yes.
He's a name.
He is a name. And so they got people, and the publishers of his book posted pictures on Twitter where they're like, look at all the people here. Like, look, what an incredible turnout. But here's the thing. Here's what Brave Books, here's what they said. This is a message to every library in the United States. In 137 years of the Indianapolis Public Library's history, never once, all caps, never once have they had over 2,500 people show up to a single event until today.
Are libraries in the business of mass crowds? I don't think that's sort of their... I think, okay, can I give you a really high-arching problem
Yes.
with society right now, specifically
You
with
have 10
conservatives,
seconds.
is that they only know how to measure things in monetary value
And font size.
and font size and like just they only I shouldn't even say monetary value. They
Like,
only
look
know
at how
how
many
to
people came to my rally.
Exactly. They only know how to brag about like sheer numbers. And like if I'm not impressed that you got 2,500 people to a free library event in Indianapolis, what am I supposed? Okay, cool. I got like
And then,
Okay.
I'm not even done yet. On
this
Facebook,
guy.
Kirk Cameron added that this beautiful library has a large auditorium that seats over 2,000 people, but leadership never offered it to us or even told us about it. Here's the thing with all of these comments you just heard. They're all lies. You know
you
how
don't
I know
say.
that?
'Cause they're lying?
The Indianapolis Public Library responded on Twitter, and they said the following. Our estimated door count during the event was around 750, not 2,500, part one.
okay. Oh wait, 750.
750,
What's
not
that,
2,500.
a third?
It's about a third, yeah. They said...
Who's good at math
then
now?
wait for it. We've had larger events. Then...
Listen, I lived in Indiana for a long time, and I do hate this state as a whole, but Indianapolis fucking rules. I love that city,
Then
and
they
I
added-
love this.
Then they added, by the way, we turned 150 years old in 2023, not 137, so they got that number wrong.
I'm doing
but
a
then they
B-reel
said,
right now.
and our auditorium, which our guests chose not to rent, holds 300, not 2,000. So, like, every numeric claim they made was just flat out wrong. Do you know, like, it's one thing for, like, the red-pilled misogynist online to get owned by, like, Greta Thunberg, but for Kirk Cameron to
God, we
get
haven't talked about
owned...
that!
For Kirk Cameron to get owned by a public library in
So
Indianapolis?
fucking
Nice.
funny.
Well done.
Kirk
Kirk Cameron, by the way, had to edit his Facebook post multiple times to remove that comment that he made because he's like, oh, I was wrong. Oh, I was wrong. Oh.
Well, it's just
You
so
could see the edits. It's
indicative
great.
of this kind of shit that this world that people live in is like they'll just throw out whatever number is in their brain, and somebody near them will make it make sense.
2,500. Sure, that looks about right.
Like honestly, I truly think that we are about to get to this reckoning of conservatives who just make shit up and say whatever they want to and pretend it's truth. And I think we're seeing this in DC right now. Of they elected 150 people who have no interest in governing or doing the business of running a country. And so this is what we get. We're going to be doing this for the next 2 years, and people are going to be like, oh, actually the government needs to be doing things because like we kind of rely on it for driving and living and having water and shit like that.
Wild.
But it's things like this of like these guys will say a number that they make up, and there are dorks on computers bending over backwards trying to be like, well, when he said 10,000, we definitely knew there were 7,000 here and 200 here and 400. Like, they think they can make anything up they want to, and it will be fine.
Yep, and no one's going to call him out on
And
it.
I think we're finally getting there, that people are going to get called out on easy things that they lie about.
And look, I'm just saying, if the Christian parents who attended this event want to see courage and morality and really good storytelling, like, just go to a drag queen story hour. It's fine. You don't need Kirk Cameron.
Okay, that's the thing I've noticed recently is that people are on Facebook specifically, which is where I do most of my public interaction, which is miserable.
That's the saddest thing I've ever heard.
It does seem. First of all, I have real friends, so fuck you. That's gonna be
Fine,
mean. I need
touche.
to stop being very mean to you. But it seems to be that is the go-to like. anytime somebody criticizes conservatives, they're like, well, at least they're not like applying sex to 3-year-olds in the form of drag queens. Like that has become their new sort of like, well, y'all.
If you raise the concept in any way, it's automatically the worst thing ever.
The worst thing you've ever heard of. I'm just, for the first time in, I don't know, 8 years, I'm a little bit optimistic about the direction our country is going.
No, you stop that right now.
Maybe people are starting to wake up from the Trumpism and the ineffectiveness.
They're all there. It's bad.
No, but he's running again and nobody gives a shit. Like, honestly, I think
DeSantis is not better, though.
Nobody.
It's a different brand of awful.
Excuse me. Did you just accuse
me
of saying...
You said you were optimistic.
I said I was cautiously optimistic about the direction of the country because I think people are starting to wake up to this kind of bullshit of like, these people are liars and they're not going to follow through on fucking anything.
This is why I couldn't be a politician because my general consensus is the American voter is just the dumbest human being.
Of course, but even idiots have their floor of like... Okay, you can't just say anything to me and expect me to believe it, right? Like, I feel like that's where Trump is. Like, he just keeps lying about everything. And people, it seems to me from like online rhetoric, one by one, are like, I don't think he is the person I thought he was. Or I can't believe the person I supported through all this did X.
I want to believe that, except if some other idiot does the exact same stuff with the same mannerisms that's not with his name, which is what DeSantis is, they're falling for it again. So it's like, we haven't learned a thing.
You think people are falling for DeSantis?
Yes. Republicans. Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay.
All right. So let's talk about, this is interesting. The Pew Research Center, every 2 years, when the first day of Congress is set to get sworn in, they issue a release where they say the religious makeup of Congress. So they did it again this year. Little did they know.
So sweet and naive, right? The
AP. But basically, they're saying we looked into what are the religious labels used by every entering member of Congress and what is different now from 2 years ago. So in terms of the stuff that I think people should know, for the first time on the list, it actually says humanist.
Hey!
One, that Jared Huffman from California, 2 years ago, even though he was openly humanist, he was listed as other. This year, they gave him his own label. So for the first time, there's a humanist on the list.
The plight of biracial people up until like 2012 is other.
Yep. I know it well. Yep. So there's a humanist on the list. That means one member of Congress is a humanist. That is 0.2% of Congress.
That's reflective of America, right?
Yep. What percent of Congress is some brand of Christian?
69.
Nice. Higher.
Nice. Really?
Yeah.
76?
88% of Congress is Christian.
76 was the number of trombones in the big parade.
What percent of Republicans are Christian?
Oh, 100%.
99.
Who's
I think
not?
98 point something, but
Who's
it's 99. Who's not?
Is it a single person?
It's two. They have 2 Jewish people in their caucus, and one guy, take a guess, who is, quote, Jewish, wink, wink.
Okay,
that
so
would be
this
George
is
Santos,
a person
the liar.
whom I did not hear of.
Yeah.
Until I learned,
and now
until
you know
the
everything about him.
Jewish thing.
Yeah.
Who the fuck is this guy? Can you give me like a 30-second explainer?
He lied for years and years, and he ran for Congress and lost 2 years ago. So I think the consensus was, well, he lost. We're never going to hear of him again. We don't have to do any more deep dive into this.
Was he always lying?
Yeah.
Okay.
And now he won the race. And it turns out when you actually look into his background, George Santos, he lied about pretty much everything. And by the way, Brazil wants to arrest him on fraud charges. Brazil.
Yeah. Okay, dude. You fucked up
and
then.
Even Republicans, other than the far MAGA people,
the one we know.
None of them want to talk to him based on C-SPAN cameras this week.
Wait.
We're not even talking about this guy, but he's one of the non-Christians because what he told the press is he's like, I'm Jew-ish.
Okay, that was my question.
What is his religion? I don't know.
But is that does he have any Jewish heritage in him?
According to Jewish newspapers, we checked and no. So who knows?
Okay. I don't want to be.
They're just going by what they publicly said, and Pew is not doing the deep investigative
Okay, I don't want
research
to be a
into these
dick
people.
about this, and
Yes.
maybe this is dickish, but like, why would you pretend to be Jewish to win a GOP race?
I think
That's my
I think one
confusion.
of the things he was saying is my grandparents escaped like the Holocaust. They
Oh, that's his second problem, because I
Yeah.
think GOP is pro-Holocaust at this point in history.
But I think that was one of the stories he told,
That his-
and it turned out to be false. They have no record of his grandparents there either. I don't know what his deal is.
How old is he?
Like 4. I don't know.
No, genuinely, is he like our age or is he an old person?
He's younger.
He's younger than us?
He's
We're the
probably-
youngest people
we are
I've
not
ever
young.
met.
We're old. He's also old, our age old. 40, 30. I don't know.
So he's an adult. He's not like a 23-year-old
Yeah.
idiot, and he's not a 90-year-old lunatic.
So that's one thing. So Republicans,
we're not talking about him.
99% Christian.
I'm frankly
That's
shocked it's not
interesting.
100%.
33 members of Congress as a whole are Jewish. That's about 6% of Congress compared to 2% of the population.
Okay.
So they
I was
are
hoping-
overrepresented in Congress.
I was hoping you were going to give me this. else?
Catholics are also overrepresented in Congress, 148 Catholics.
And I would say on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, 148 Catholics in Congress. That's 28% of Congress compared to 21% of the population.
But closer.
Closer. Where is the makeup? Like, who's underrepresented? That would be the unaffiliated batch.
Is it us?
There is one member of Congress who is listed as unaffiliated
And that is?
compared to 29% of the population. Who is that one? Kirsten Sinema.
Fuck you.
So, a couple other things to note. Jamie
hate
Raskin. We'll talk about him in a little bit. House member Jamie Raskin. As far as I can tell, he doesn't believe in a higher power of any sort, but he is listed as Jewish. He says, that's what I was raised with. It's the culture I identify with.
And Judaism is a tricky thing in terms
There are
of...
secular Jews.
Yeah.
So there's that. Other things to keep in mind. There is one Messianic Jew who is one of these crazy MAGA Republicans, Anna Paulina Luna. There are 3 Muslims, 2 Buddhists, 2 Hindus. A little diversity there.
So diverse. It's impressive.
There
it's almost
are-
diverse as this room we're sitting in right now.
There are 20 members of Congress who chose not to answer the religion question, which is pretty much what it was 2 years ago.
I wonder why that is. I'm just curious
Sometimes
if
they
it's-
just believe, like, I'm Christian, but I don't believe it's a part of my
Anybody's
public.
business.
It's nobody's business, or they just forgot to answer the question on the survey that we are working off of
Or
here.
it didn't make to their desk.
Who
or-
are some of the newer members who are don't know or refuse to answer? Brittany Pedersen, a Democrat from Colorado. Nikki Budzinski, a Democrat from Illinois. Melanie Stansbury, a Democrat from New Mexico. George Santos, who's
Yeah.
listed as Jewish,
Lol.
who's the Republican.
Wait, no. He's not listed as Jewish.
He's one of the non-Christians, but he's technically don't know or refuse to
But
say.
the hyphen isn't in there.
But the hyphen is not in there.
Okay, just want to make sure because we need to have some seriousness in this
A
country.
Democrat from Rhode Island, Seth Magaziner, and also John Fetterman. The senator also has listed no religious affiliation. I have no reason to think he's
Listen,
non-religious,
anybody
but he
who
never talks
beat
about it.
Draws is my personal hero.
Draws,
I
yes.
absolutely, truly, Sidney McElroy and Justin McElroy on Sawbones call him Draws, and I will
like it.
only refer to him as such. Although I'm just never, I don't think ever going to get over Dr. Oz walking into that grocery store
Crudité.
and saying like, I need to make a crudité plate. And
how I
it's
talk all
too
the time.
expensive. And like, that was him trying to appeal to blue collar people as if any of them, I don't say crudité and I'm a snob. I make sure crudité
here's-
plates all of the time with pate.
Here's the
fucking
disclaimer
fancy.
for this entire part of the conversation.
Oh.
Like, this is ultimately a superficial way of viewing all of these people
Truly.
because, of course, all that really matters is how any of these people are going to vote on the issues that matter to us. If there's a Republican atheist who votes against women's rights, LGBTQ rights, church-state separation,
Yeah, it's
you're
not my friend.
Yeah, like, then the fact that you're non-religious means nothing to me. And by the way, there are plenty of religious Democrats who do a really good job of fighting for progressive causes. And if they keep doing that, I don't really care how they self-identify.
Yeah.
Not the reason I care about them right now. You know what I mean?
I think you and I hopefully are pretty, what's the word? Like, of our values of like, just because somebody's an atheist doesn't mean we want anything to do with them. Like, you need
Right.
to do, because I think
Be
that's
a
a
good
problem with like
person.
Republicans with Christians and things like that. Like, if they are X, then I trust them.
Mm.
And I trust nobody.
Yeah. let's also talk about, this is a thing we talked about like a year ago, but it's been a while, and now I've seen these ads creep up again. Do you remember those He Gets Us ads for Jesus? I saw them pop up all over the place this week.
I know my face didn't translate, but...
Your face looks like I've never heard of these things ever.
And how dare you bring it up to
me? During the college football semifinals and the bowl games, I saw these commercials all over the broadcasts, and I've seen them during some of the election or the news coverage now, like on cable shows, because they're putting this ad in front of people who are watching. But basically, if you don't remember these ads, these started appearing a little more than a year ago, sometime in 2021, I think. But basically, these are ads that say things like, he was a refugee. He gets it. Jesus, he gets us. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Basically, they're not advertising for a brand of Christianity or a particular church. They're just saying, geez, it's like milk. It does a body good.
I am so critical of things like that are just like Jesus writ large, because who's pouring this money? Because the
You're
milk...
getting a step ahead of me here.
The milk does a body good is done by the
milk
Dairy
people.
Council, the pork, the other white meat,
Yeah.
the Pork Council. Like, people pay for this because it is in their financial interest to remind people that milk is great.
Who benefits from an ad that says, like, Jesus is cool, you should give him a second look? That's the question.
That's the thing
Who's
I'm
behind
confused
this?
about is, like, you can't just say Jesus and expect them to come to your personal church, right?
Right. And basically, what we learned last year, and I think we talked about this at the time, is that the people who sponsored this campaign, first of all, anonymous donors, we don't know their names.
Oh, boy.
That's messed up. And do you know how much money they're spending on this ad campaign, which is not just commercials on TV? Oh, this is why I wanted to bring this up. They, according to the Catholic News Agency, they have bought 2 ads during the Super Bowl, which, by my estimation, is a cost of $14 million
14
for 60 seconds of airtime during the Super Bowl.
I remember when Super Bowl ad used to be $1 million for 30 seconds.
Now
Those
it's
were
7.
The days,
now
right?
it's $7 million.
Wow.
So they bought 2 ads for this too. So you will see this during the Super Bowl. How much money do they have in the ad campaign altogether?
It has to be tens of millions.
$100 million ad campaign.
Wow.
So who's paying for this? It comes from a group. This is from Christianity Today, who got a hold of the story.
Christianity Today does good shit sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. And I believe He Gets Us. People are like, hey, Christianity Today, we'll talk to you exclusively if you're right about this. And they said, it comes from a group called the Servant Christian Foundation, which is a nonprofit backed by a Christian donor-advised fund called the Signatory, which is a weird way of saying there are this group funded by this group. You've never heard of either group. And all of those groups are funded by shadowy donors who we cannot tell you their names. They're all anonymous. But here's the important
sound
thing.
Like something Dan Brown made up.
That's exactly my thought, too. It's just like nebulous, weird groups, and I don't know anything about them. Here's what you do need to know. The people who, first thing you need to know, is that the people who are behind the marketing here, whoever's funding them, and I don't know the answer to that, whoever's funding them, it's a Michigan-based marketing agency called Haven. And what do we know about Haven? The people actually making the ads and getting paid to make the ads that do this, they have previously worked for Focus on the Family and Alliance Defending Freedom, like very conservative Christian groups. Which
but this time, they're being chill, right?
And here's my problem with the campaign. I believe, again, we talked about this a while ago. My problem with the campaign is I get that their belief is we are not selling you on a particular type of Christianity. We just want to get Jesus out there. And
Which feels noble on its face.
Feels like it.
I believe this isn't me trying to make money. This is me trying to save people.
Yes,
Capital
and I
S.
believe the way it works is they have a website like He Gets Us, whatever, but any church can go there and say, hey, can you add my church's name to your directory? And if anyone curious goes to their website, they could say, I'm interested in this Jesus person. Is there anything near me? And they will direct you to all the churches in your area that have signed on to we're for Jesus and we have no other beliefs about anything.
No other barriers.
Which, again, that could be fine. The problem is, like, you can't sell any product without acknowledging the side effects. And if we've learned anything from the people who follow Jesus, it's that things don't turn out well. marketing, like you can't market Jesus unless you acknowledge that most of the people who use the product are like not worth admiring.
We are about to have another fight.
No. Totally right about it. Alliance Defending Freedom, focus on the family.
No, those are bad people.
Those are absolutely bad people.
But I'm sorry, are you saying to me right now with a serious tone that people who are the kind of people who are going to do $100 million ad campaign for Jesus are going to be like, asterisk, all of your wishes won't come true?
No, a lot
of that's what it sounds like to me.
No, I think the problem is that they're saying if you just agree with us on the Jesus thing. Here's some of their ads.
But they believe that.
They do believe that. Here's some of their ads. Jesus confronted racism with love.
Wait, did he?
No. I mean,
wait, was there racism in the Middle East? Weren't they all the same race?
I think they just make up these things. Jesus was a refugee. Jesus fought systems of oppression.
Jesus was a refugee, like, is folded into the Jesus story. The racism thing.
Not in the way we talk about it.
Listen, if it wasn't in Jesus Christ Superstar, I don't know about it, but I don't think there was a racial thing.
But, like, the thing is, there's no mention of the fact that the people fighting against any mention or response to structural racism, guess who they are? It's like the white evangelicals. You can't pretend Jesus is all good with confronting racism without trying to admit, like, dude, Jesus is the problem when the rest of us are trying to.
Here?
I know.
I feel like you're giving me these arguments that people who have been an atheist for 45 minutes
wrong.
come up with.
Here's another ad they've actually put out. This is a Facebook ad. Have you ever been bullied?
Yeah.
That's the whole ad. The implication is Jesus was bullied too. He gets you. He gets being bullied.
My bully called me eagle because I have a Roman nose and he thought I made me look like an eagle.
There you go. But that's the thing, like, there's no mention, no acknowledgement of the fact that the people who are getting bullied, if you're talking about like LGBTQ people, where's that coming from? So I wanted to bring this. Do you remember
your expectations, Hemant?
Acknowledge. I would love to see an honest campaign that says, we know most of the Christians you ever see are pieces of crap on TV, in the media. The people with the largest platforms and profiles are horrible. We are not like that. We wish we would all get back to basics. I mean, I would at least get where that's coming from.
Now,
these people want to think like, if we all just return to Jesus, everything will be fine.
Well, one of us is a marketing professional and one of us isn't. And I just want to say to you that...
Would this campaign work?
I mean, who cares? Genuinely.
I mean, that's the whole question. They're spending $100 million thinking that this campaign will work. Do you think they have a point?
No, I don't. But also, fine. Like, I'm happy with that fucking advertisement money to go to the MTA and they can like improve their trains or whatever.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like they can waste their money however they want.
I guess, I'm just confused. Okay. I'm confused about why this feels like a big deal for you.
I'll give you an analogy. Here's why.
This is what I've been working for you for 10 years now. And this is all we do is somebody did this bullshit advertisement for like religion
all I
and you
have
need
in my
it.
life.
But like, what are you expecting?
Okay.
What do you expect?
Okay. Andrew Yang, remember him?
Brother.
Okay. You remember he launched the Forward Party recently?
No.
Okay.
I pay attention.
He launched a third party.
Oh,
it's called the Forward Party.
Oh, boy.
And his whole thing is like, we know most of you hate the two sides. He actually billed it as a centrist alternative to the two-party system meant to appeal to a, quote, moderate, common sense majority.
How do you feel about Andrew Yang as a fellow Asian? Do you think he's making y'all look good or bad?
No, he's someone you all dunk. We all dunk on.
We do.
Like, okay, but here's the point.
He seems like a good dude, just misguided.
Totally misguided. I think this is a grift. But here's the thing.
Yeah,
if you go to their website, like Forward Party, fine, you started a third party. I've seen that. It usually doesn't work.
Are they running at local levels?
That's a great question,
Thank
Green
you,
Party. Like, are you doing anything? Are you doing anything besides running a candidate to siphon votes?
Running for president once every 4 years.
Right.
This
but
is also to the Bernie bros from 2016.
So, okay, Forward Party, you want to be this centrist alternative. What are your positions on anything?
Yes, tell me.
And the answer is they have none. They say, we don't have a platform. There are no positions. Like,
wait, they say those words or
no,
they just say...
I'm saying that, but you will not find any policy beliefs about anything. What are they for?
Yeah.
Nothing. They have no opinions about anything.
So they're only saying, hey, we're not a Democrat and we're not a Republican.
We'll find a common sense. Like, here's what they said. This is actually this week, an essay in The Atlantic was from a volunteer for the Forward Party who has since left the group. Here's what he wrote. When a party's platform is no more specific than free people, thriving communities, and vibrant democracy, leaders are essentially saying, good vibes, good people, trust us. Which,
yes. Yeah. Did you write that?
No, that was this guy in The Atlantic. It was very good. But here's the point. Like, if you don't tell us where you stand on the biggest issues we're all facing right now, what? Abortion rights, civil rights, LGBTQ rights, immigration rights. Like, you got to have some position on this. Even if you say we can find a good compromise to bring people from both sides together, what is your compromise on abortion? Like, how are you going to find a way to thread the needle here?
Well,
I don't know what that is.
I think we, as a collective, need to be a little more aware of the Overton window, which, do you want to explain? Do you have a good...
People have a range of opinions you could have, but if one side's insanely crazy, now all of a sudden we start thinking the crazy people are kind of normal, and it shifts the window of acceptable opinions in one direction or another. Is that fair?
I think that's how I would put it. Well, I think the Overton window is very much applicable here because Yang et al. Are saying, oh my God, they're both extremists.
Yes.
And we're going to find something in the middle where...
And
it's
all
not
I'm asking,
that we're both extremists.
Right.
It's one party wants to govern and help people, and the other wants to sow chaos.
Right.
And if you try to divide those particular uprights, you're going to end up with an anti-choice decision as a compromise.
Right. So this is the point. Why this is the criticism everybody who cares about politics and writes about it.
Yeah.
This is what they pretty much complained about from the get-go. It's it's one thing to say we're going to bring Republicans and Democrats together. Nice idea. Well, what are you going to do to make that happen? What is your shared principled position that's not too extreme
you cannot
on anything, especially
campaign
the most
on
contentious things?
I'm not him.
Yes. And the answer is there is no answer, which is what everyone said. What are you going to do about abortion? They're like, we're not here to tell you how to think about abortion, but we're going to bring people to the table and figure this out.
We're going to talk to 50 white men about their views on abortion and come to a consensus.
But here's what the analogy I want to make. I think you get that the Forward Party is whatever you think about the idea of it, it doesn't work in practice because there is no way to compromise on a lot of these issues.
Which we're seeing.
It's a nice idea, but in practice, it just doesn't work because
even the GOP can't compromise, and we're looking at it right now.
Right. This is the Jesus gets us, he gets us thing. You can't just say we're the Forward Party of religion. We want everyone to come together. Let's unite under what Jesus has in common. Tell us what you think about gay people. Tell us what you think about that. They're like, we have no opinions about this.
Of course.
Where do you think the bigotry's coming from? It's your side, buddy. There was another, we talked about this a year ago, I'm not going to bring his name into it because it doesn't matter, but there was a Christian minister who said his ministry exists to bridge the divide between Christians like himself and LGBTQ people. And he said, I want to bring those groups together because historically they do not get together. Sounds like a nice idea. Here's the problem. You go to his website and the FAQ is 2 questions long. Do you think homosexuality is immoral? And he's like, I don't have any position on that. I don't want to say anything one way or the other. Oh, do you think same-sex marriage is okay? This is 10 years ago. Do you think same-sex marriage should be okay? He's like, I don't take any position. I'm not here to tell you what to think.
So brave.
And that's the thing. That's the right answer. Guess what? That ministry doesn't exist anymore because no one liked any of it because it's how can you not have a position on the thing we're all arguing about? You're like, you guys are all arguing. I'm going to bring you together. Buddy, what do you think we're arguing about?
Can I tell you? I was trying
But this is the He Gets Us campaign.
100. No.
It's just saying, we can bring everyone together under the banner of Jesus.
We all agree it's a bad campaign, Hammond.
And my argument is the reason this campaign doesn't work and why it's a waste of money and what I want everyone to be thinking when they see their stupid emotional ads during the Super Bowl is I don't care what you think about Jesus. I've seen the effects of Jesus, and they hurt people. And if Christians of any stripe are not willing to acknowledge that the most prominent Christians who happen to be conservative, which are the ones with the prominence, that they are the ones hurting people more than anyone else, and they are doing it in the name of Christianity. If you can't bring yourself to acknowledge that and admit your religion has played a role in that,
advertisement,
any way you want, admit that Jesus and the way people have believed in Jesus and taken that message has hurt people. Like Jesus alone, especially when it's an ad campaign run by people who have used Jesus to hurt people and have marketed groups that have used Jesus to hurt people. Like, they're all in this to try to get you. Remember all those mega churches that are like...
Are you learning about capitalism for the first time?
Remember all those mega churches are like, we welcome all people. No perfect people allowed in this church. And they say, welcome in here. And then we've heard all these sad stories of like, well, this lesbian joined the church. And then later on, when she was like a volunteer and working with them, she gets married to her partner. And they're like, oh, you can't work here anymore. You're not welcome
we've seen it
here.
a gajillion times.
But that's the thing. They're trying to suck you in without telling you all the fine print. And then it's like, what do you think's going to happen?
Yeah, dog, are you accusing a cult of being a cult? That's how it works. What do you think they're going to do? It's working. It's worked for millennia.
That is exactly what I said at the beginning of this, and you got mad at me for saying what you're saying right now.
No, I just don't understand why you're mad. This is their whole fucking
because
jam.
This ad is now taking on a second wave right now on a lot of big things.
So fucking
and
what?
I want people who see these ads to be pissed off when they see them for all these reasons.
Everybody
and not
listening to the show is.
I'm
but
sure
it's
they are.
not fair
but
to
I
be
want
like,
them
hey,
to say, like, oh, okay, you cannot say Jesus gets us, Jesus is fine, but all the people who use him in a bad way are wrong. No, your religion is the problem. I want everyone to be thinking that when you see the ads. That's all.
And guess what? If they're listening to this podcast, they already are.
I hope they do.
I just feel like you expect people to take ownership of their bullshit because I feel like you
Wouldn't that be nice?
It would be nice because this is how I feel. I think you are a person with like self-respect and
you have misjudged me.
Well, I mean, obviously. But like I feel like you say what you mean and you mean what you say and you expect that of everybody else. You are honest and clear about things, but that's not how advertising do.
I know. And I want the people who just see it, like when you hear people talking about it, because you'll see it on Facebook, your friends will share it. Be the person who comments and is a dick. I'm sorry. That's what Facebook is for. It's not for useful conversation.
I'm not the person who is here to tell people to be a dick to their weird Christian aunt. Like,
then don't invite them to the holiday dinner.
Well, I didn't, obviously.
I wanted to make sure I covered this too because this is a big deal. In Norway recently, in Norway, the Jehovah's Witnesses were just stripped of their religious community status. This is a big deal.
Wait.
And what that means in practice is that like they could still get together and have their religion, whatever, but they will not get taxpayer funding and they will not be allowed to perform legal marriages.
Wow. Then what's that based on?
So what is that based on? A year ago, the government of Norway basically said, listen, we don't care. Like, let me explain a couple things here. Norway has a national church, like a lot of European countries do. They actually don't have a national religion. They no longer have a national religion because even in Norway, no one believes in anything.
But a national church?
Anymore, but they do have a national church. But the way it works in Norway is that the more members your religion has, 50 is the minimum. If you have 50 members in your religious group, you can apply with the government and say, we want taxpayer money to run our church, our business, our religion.
Because in theory, we're bringing good to the world, and so the government should support that.
You can apply for state subsidies. In 2021, 724 different groups got that sort of funding. That includes, by the way, humanist groups. Like, this isn't a discrimination thing, but 700 some groups, a lot of religions, got money for...
In a pretty small country.
Yeah. So, like, okay, this is what they do. That's their thing. Okay, fine.
They do it.
I've heard from everyone on social media, they do not want you singing.
Fuck you, Heaven. This is the first time that people have rallied for me. I don't even remember what I sang or why I was yelling.
Here's what the law says, though. There are some lines in the sand, because they say, we don't care what your beliefs are. So if you have 50 members...
50 human beings.
50 human beings, like, you are eligible for the subsidy. Here are their lines in the sand. They say if your religious or philosophical community or anyone acting on behalf of your community in some official capacity.
That's tricky.
Commits violence, makes threats, violates children's rights, violates statutory discrimination prohibitions, or basically if you're impeding the rights and freedom of others, yeah, we're not going to give you money. That's kind of their basic rules.
Jehovah's Witnesses are pretty... Okay, all right.
All
just
right.
tell me.
So
Why don't you
those
just
are
tell me
their-
instead I'm going to guess.
Okay, so those are their rules. Now, I know there are atheists who are like, any form of religious indoctrination is child abuse. That is not what we are talking about here.
No.
This is like straight up, unless your religion says like, we hurt people,
Right.
like then you're not getting money.
It's chill. It's fine.
But like the Catholic Church, you're fine. Because there's nothing in your rule book that says you must do this.
There's nothing in the
abuse.
rule book that says a dog cannot be speaker of the house, is all I'm saying. And Dottie
Yes,
is an
it's the
idiot, but
Air
she
Bud
will be
rule
there.
applied to Norwegian religion. Okay, so here's the deal with the Jehovah's Witnesses. In 2021, there were about 12,686 Jehovah's Witnesses.
That's more than 50.
More than
Not
50.
to brag, wasn't a math
What did
teacher.
that count for? That accounted for about 1.8 million US dollars, if I convert.
Oh, dollars.
About 1.8 million dollars they were eligible for.
Do we have a percentage of the population off the top of your head or no? That's what I thought you were giving
Not off
me.
the top of my head.
Okay, go ahead.
But that's how much money.
Sure.
$1.8 million is
That's
what the Jehovah's Witnesses
what I
got
would call
because they had that many members.
a metric fuck ton of
A
money.
lot of money. So here's the thing. In 2021, they got some letters. 2 former members of the Jehovah's Witnesses and another whistleblower who wanted to remain anonymous sent the government letters saying, the witnesses are violating your rules. And like, it's not like the rules were secret. It's not like the rules
Really?
were secret, but the government can't like go on a witch hunt, go after random religions because
So
they want
violating
to.
rules means they're threatening people or
Well,
being violent. Those
I'll
were the
get to
two
that in a
things,
second.
right?
There were a few things. But
Okay.
here's the thing. The government can't just say like, hey, Catholics, we see what you're doing. We're going to come after you. No, they had to wait to get the
should.
paperwork. And now that they had some letters in hand, they could do their investigation.
Okay.
And here's basically what they found out. I'll skip ahead the
They
nuance
have the
stuff. Here's what
patience
they
of a
said.
sphinx over there.
Uh-huh. The witnesses, Jehovah's Witnesses, actually formally have a practice called disfellowshipping.
They do.
What is disfellowshipping? That means if you decide you're an adult, you say, you know what, I don't believe in this stuff anymore. I'm going to leave the Jehovah's Witnesses. The religion says you're basically excommunicated, and members of the church, members of the witnesses, cannot have any interaction with you, minus like small, minor things. They can't talk to you. You are not friends anymore. You are cut off, which makes it really hard to leave the faith. And I mean, there's no shortage
And
of
this is not-
traumatic stories of adults who, like, I left the church. I haven't talked to my parents since whenever.
And while this is not only a Jehovah's Witness thing, it's really common there, but we see it in Scientology, especially a lot of cults where people have to pick between their religion.
Less extreme, but also there in Mormonism. Yeah. So
Mormonism,
it's
yeah.
there.
They had the disfellowship thing. You can't go to the church if you're not a Mormon, like for weddings and shit like that. It's heavy. It's heavy to leave the church.
Norwegian government said, well, guess what? All the religions that receive government subsidies from us, they have to practice a, quote, right to free withdrawal. You have to be able to leave a religion freely.
Okay.
And if there's any obstacle to leaving the religion, that's a violation of the law.
So what do they consider an obstacle?
An obstacle is like if someone says, I don't believe and I want to leave, they have the right to do that.
Anything that they do to keep them there is an obstacle?
Yeah, because now you're not just a religion with religious beliefs, you're a cult. Like, let's all admit that's kind of what you're doing.
It is 100% true. I'm genuinely just thinking about
What the government official wrote in the letter said disfellowshipping, quote, can cause members to feel pressured to remain in the faith community.
Yes.
Now remember, if you're, let's say, Catholic or evangelical and you decide you are no longer and you want to leave, your family might put pressure on you. They might make you feel really bad about it.
Of course.
Your church might say, we're not friends with you anymore. But that is not written in the rule book. That's just kind of how it plays out. The Jehovah's Witnesses, though, this is in their rule book, the disfellowshipping
Sure.
idea. This is coming from on high. Second reason, and there's only two, second reason the government said we have a problem with what you're doing is that they have a similar policy for kids. Because if a child in a Jehovah's
Whoa.
Witness family quote, makes it a habit to break the moral standards of the Bible and does not repent. Basically, if you have a rebellious child, but maybe not one old
when
enough
you
to do a
say
formal.
child, do you mean like 6-7-year-old or
Let's
like
go
a
with-
14,
Let's
15?
go with 16 to make this easier.
Okay.
Like, you're not quite old enough to go off on your own somewhere, but you decide you don't believe this stuff.
Yeah.
But whatever, you don't feel bad about not believing in this stuff.
You don't
The
feel
witnesses teach you treat them like as pariahs. You can't kick them out. We're not asking you to, you get to, that's a bad thing. That means if a young teenager quits the religion, you're not excluded the same way an adult would be. Like your parents are not obligated by the religion to kick you out of the house. But the religion says the rebellious child can no longer, quote, have contact with other close family, including grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins, or friends. That's what they teach. Like, you could stay at home with your parents, but, like, outside of that, no. You are taught that no one else is to hang out with you.
Hey, Hammett, what the fuck is wrong with religion?
Yes.
Why do they do
Welcome
this
to my
kind
world.
of
That's what I've been saying for an hour and a half now.
I did not just discover this.
So the government said that puts pressure on the child to remain in the fold, a violation of their own rights. They said, we consider social isolation as a form of punishment against the child.
And they're correct.
Yeah. So because of those two, quote, systematic and intentional offenses, none of which the Jehovah's Witnesses could deny because it's in their
texts.
Basically, last year, the government said, listen, we're totally going to punish you for this.
Yeah.
So for this year, we're taking away your money.
Great.
But we'll give you a year to kind of get your stuff in order if you want to make any changes.
Classic Norwegian generosity.
And of course, the religion is like, we're not making any changes. These are our religious rules. So this past week, maybe a week, 2 weeks ago, the government said, okay, we're now not only making this permanent instead of temporary and not giving you the money, we're also revoking your right to perform religions that are marriages that are considered official by the government. So if a Jehovah's Witness wants to get married with all the benefits of marriage, they got to go through like a judge, like you do in the U.S. because your priest can't marry you anymore.
Okay.
And by the way, the witnesses said they're going to appeal this decision. On what grounds? I don't know.
How?
They did say, like, they asked a judge, can you put a halt to this? And they got a victory there. But really all that means is, look, we got time to fight this in court. And until it's finalized, we want you to hold off on getting rid of the no marriages allowed in the religion, like that are
Which, to be fair, is harmful on a lot of levels.
Sure. So it's like, fine, you guys can have the stay on the decision. But ultimately, it doesn't look like the Norwegian government has done anything wrong. They acted by the book. The Jehovah's Witnesses have followed their dogma. And now they just Jehovah themselves out of like $2 million a year. So whatever. Yeah. They can still meet. They can still practice their faith. They're just not going to get rewarded for it.
Listen, a lot of us do not get government funding for hanging out with our friends. So,
so yeah, and by the way, like I hope, I should point out, in other places, one of my favorite tangents to this story is that there have been unintended consequences to what the Norwegian government is doing. And here's one of the examples of that. In 2016, the nation's evangelical Lutheran church, they launched a website to make it easier to track members, enroll new ones, thinking, hey, this is good for us. We're modernizing our church. So we have an app and a website and all that. But that plan backfired because by 2016, people were much more aware that if they say we are members of a church, that the church gets money for them being a member. So in 2016, when this evangelical Lutheran church app went live, a lot of people are like, you know what? I always say I'm Lutheran, but like I'm not.
Not really.
So I'm going to use your app to get out of the church. And a lot of people left. And also
That's
in 2015,
pretty fucking funny.
Hilarious. In 2015, the Catholic Church also had an app to help people with membership and stuff. And it turned out the Norwegian government, let me back up. In 2015, the Norwegian government fined the Catholic Church like $5 million because they fraudulently registered thousands of people on its membership lists.
I mean, I've always said I want to move to Scandinavia.
And after the church created an app for members, more than 11,000 Norwegians resigned shortly after.
11,000
When you give people a button that makes it easier for them to say, like, no, I want out.
Listen, there's a reason email marketing buries its unsubscribe button in, like, the finest font at the bottom of the page. Nobody wants you to tap out.
I've been going forever. I'm going to give you two quick stories because I want to make sure
Two quick stories?
I know.
How long? Going
3 hours.
World record.
But really quick, I think I mentioned this 2 weeks ago, but we didn't have finality on it.
Okay.
In New York, there was a bill. 0 points.
He's so mad that.
In New York, there was a bill that passed. It was in front of the governor, just waiting for her signature, that would have expanded treatment options for secular people struggling with substance abuse.
Bummer.
Basically, all the bill did is if you have to go in front of a judge for whatever addiction issue you have, and the judge says you have to complete a substance abuse treatment program, a lot of those judges were just sending people to like Alcoholics Anonymous, which is religious. And and like in some states, not New York, but in some states, there were people who were like, this violates my religious beliefs.
Was he Hindu, the pilot?
There was a pilot for United Airlines, not a public place, but yeah, United Airlines said...
he Hindu?
Buddhist.
Buddhist.
And they said, like, you got to go through a faith-based substance abuse program. And he's like, but I found an alternative. They don't
call it that, but that's what we understand it to be.
Yeah, and the Buddhist said, like, well, I found an alternative substance abuse program that
go fuck
aligns with my
yourself.
faith. And the company's like, no, that doesn't count. He filed a lawsuit. They just settled in his favor. But same thing, like a prisoner was like, you're making me go through like Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't want to. In 2020, an appellate court sided with the prisoner. So why did they pass this bill in New York? They just said, if you're making someone go through a substance abuse treatment program, make the obligation on the judge, on the courts, to let the defendant know, if you don't like the religious aspects of it, we'll get you an alternative place. Because right now, it's on the defendant to say, I want to go somewhere else. That's what the bill did. Harmless, easy. It just says, hey, you know this thing that's already legal? Just make the judge remind it. Because guess what? The defendants don't know the nuance of the law on this stuff. Most people don't know Alcoholics Anonymous is religious in nature, even though it's nebulous in its religion these days. So anyway, that was the bill. Should have been an easy fix. Kathy Hochul just had to sign it. Well, right before Christmas, she said, I'm vetoing it. And it's like,
and we don't
do we know why? This week, and I'm talking like literally 2 days ago, she finally issued the public explanation for why she vetoed this bill.
Oh, boy.
And it made no sense. Here's what she said in the substantive part of the veto. While I support the right to a substance use treatment program that will be most effective, codifying the right to object to mandated attendance of a religious substance use treatment program sets an uncomfortable precedent in that it may invite future selective legislative efforts to inject a similar burden upon judges to inform litigants of their rights to opt out of other court mandates. Let me translate.
So
what she
she's
just
mad
said,
that defendants are going to get too many rights? Is that what I'm hearing?
My interpretation of that is that if she signs this bill, it'll allow other defendants in other situations to claim some sort of religious right to avoid other court mandates, even though this bill wasn't allowing non-Christians to get out of anything. No one's saying they're not supposed to do, they can get out of what the judge wants them to do.
Bad judgment, bad call,
judgment.
Unclear. It's nonsensical, frankly.
Totally nonsensical. She
like,
also
genuinely, it sounds like she is worried that people will be too well informed of their rights, which I don't think we have a problem with people imprisoned in the country having too many rights. Right. I don't think that's our problem.
She also added, given that defendants already have the right to request non-religious treatment, this bill is unnecessary and imposes an overly rigid burden on courts and judges.
Okay,
you want to know what that burden? You want to know what that burden is?
Tell me.
That burden is you have to do a treatment program. Do you object to any religious aspect of this program? If the answer is yes, then it's like, okay, we'll find you an alternative. That's it. That's the whole thing. That's what she says is too burdensome for judges. Just a stupid move by a Democratic governor in a Democratic state who has already done a bunch of stupid things, like nominate a right-wing judge for the state Supreme Court when she could nominate a liberal judge and fix the gerrymandering that Republicans undid. Because, gerrymandering is not okay in blue states, but it's only okay
it's great in red states.
Anyway, Hochul, really bad decision. And here's the last thing I want to bring up today, which is we mentioned Jamie Raskin earlier. Jamie Raskin said last week that he has a cancer diagnosis.
I did hear that.
Yeah, he said he just revealed his diagnosis of diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, which he said is a serious but curable form of cancer. So hopefully that is the case, and hopefully it's treatable. He basically put it out there to say, I don't want this to be a secret. Like, I have this diagnosis. I'm going to get the treatment for it. I'm told it'll be fine. But here's the thing I wanted to point out about his message. I wasn't expecting anything different because, one, he is one of the co-founders of the Congressional Free Thought Caucus. Even though he's Jewish on paper, he's pretty secular, very pro-church-state separation, and like one of the most progressive guys who
people
fights
tend to be pretty fucking chill about religion application overall.
He absolutely is. He's also, if you care about politics, he's the lead impeachment manager for Trump's second impeachment. He was a member of the January 6th committee. He's now going to be the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee whenever this new Congress gets sworn in. So amazing, amazing guy overall. But here's what stood out to me when I was reading his brief message about this, and compare this to the way people were reacting to the football guy we mentioned earlier. Here's what Raskin put it. I am about to embark on a course of chemoimmunotherapy on an outpatient basis at a Georgetown University hospital. ... I am advised that it also causes hair loss and weight gain, although I am still holding out hope for the kind that causes hair gain and weight loss.
Funny.
With the benefit of early detection and fine doctors, the help of my extraordinary staff, the love of Sarah and our daughters and sons-in-law, actual and to be, and family and friends and my constituents and colleagues, I plan to get through this, ... My love and solidarity go out to other families managing cancer or any other health condition this holiday season, and all the doctors, nurses, and medical personnel who provide us comfort and hope. Beautiful statement,
Gorgeous.
Funny statement, well put.
Adorable.
And I was trying to think,
we love that.
and he didn't do this in retaliation of anything, but I can't remember any other member of Congress who has ever suffered something similar who hasn't mentioned God in their statement, because they believed in God and they mentioned God and all that's fine. That's the way they talk. I was just shocked at the way he managed to say all the same stuff without, there's your template for anyone else who's hopefully not in the similar situation. I actually asked Representative Jared Huffman if he had any comment on what his colleague just went through, and he actually responded, and he just said to me, I'm obviously very concerned, but I also know Jamie is one of the strongest and most resilient people I know. So if anyone can beat it, and clearly a lot of people do these days, I'm betting on my friend Jamie. So
that's
awesome.
Nice.
I think that's it.
Hashtag thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, right. Where do we find you?
You can always find me on Twitter at Jess Blumke, which apparently it seems like is not dead yet.
Elon has to do other shit right now.
Yeah, he's CEO of like 8 places, which
and
as somebody,
none of them seem to be working.
And as somebody said on Twitter, I guess that means CEOs don't really fucking do anything. You can always leave us a review. You know how I just find the most recent review?
Oh, why?
Well, they haven't updated it since December 15th, and the most recent one is just labeled Club Q Shooting by Jesus is King 333, 1 star. You immediately blamed the Christians for the shooting. What you didn't wait to realize is that the shooter was actually gay as well and would not be motivated by hate for homosexuals. LOL, self-loathing is such a real thing. Dang. Yes, I'm a Christian writing this, but not with hatred, but to simply identify a fact.
He gets us.
Wait, was he really gay? I don't think I knew that.
No, I think he said initially just to troll people or something that he used
so strange.
They, them pronouns.
Well, listen, as long as Jesus is King 666 or 333, sorry, that wasn't supposed to be a joke. It was pretty funny, though, actually. You can leave us a review. We did that. Email us, friendlyatheistpodcast@gmail.com. Our Patreon is patreon.com/friendlyatheistpodcast. We appreciate your support. Anything else you got?
No, keep listening.
We're going to do a bonus
comments,
episode, and I have fucking nothing to say.
We
so we're
will
just going to be
figure it
rambling.
out.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Goodbye.
And we'll talk to you soon.